in your currency. Splurging millions buying houses like Monopoly.
Hey guys and girls, welcome to the No BS with Birchie podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Birch, and this is the show unraveling the truth to the facade of the 21st century. We're now exiting the matrix and waking up to motherfucking reality. So guys and girls, today we're going to be talking about how we are free-range communists and we are in the matrix, all the fabrics of society that keeps us trapped. And on the second episode, I want to talk a little bit about, what options there are to protect yourself, how to get out of that system, and how to, have personal liberty and freedom for yourself. So this has happened throughout history, but it has become more and more communist, totalitarian, fascist sort of world that we're living in. And I think everyone started to see it since 2020, which I saw this a long time before 2020. A lot of people only just starting to wake up, which is really cool. That's probably the greatest thing that I saw from 2020. People coming out of it going, wow, like we live in a fucking lie. So, centralization is what they use to control us. We've got centralized education. We go to a 12-year indoctrination camp to become a tax slave. They teach you how to, fit into a box. There's no talking about how to, look after yourself spiritually. No talk about how to look after yourself emotionally or mentally. There's no talk about how to, fend for yourself, how to feed yourself, what sort of things are good to put in your body, what things are bad to put in your body. It's just how to fit you into the system so you can go out there, become a consumer, become a tax slave, and fit into that system. We've got centralized money. Centralized money, is government issued money. It's the central banks that are controlling the money. Every country in the world has a central bank. That's where the centralized money comes from. This money is controlled, is manipulated. It's not like how money used to be in the past. We've got centralized media. We've got propaganda outlets. Think about who owns the media. I was talking to my mother actually about this a while ago. She goes, these vaccines that are coming out are from the Johnson company, and why would Mr. Johnson say that something's bad? The TV wouldn't say this if Mr. Johnson was bad. And I'm like, Mum, I don't know why you're calling Johnson & Johnson Mr. Johnson, right? There's corporations out there, there's entities, there's vested interests. The media is a propaganda outlet for certain vested interests. People own the media. Who owns the media? They're controlling the messages that go out. They're controlling certain things that go out. So we've got centralized education, centralized money, centralized media, centralized food, the whole food distribution network, the way that the food's being delivered to you, the type of foods that you're getting, the diseases that you're getting, the ailments that you're getting, comes from your food. It comes from health in your gut. Comes from all different aspects of what you're putting into your body. We've got that controlled, we've got that centralized, and you don't have any other options. You go to the shops, you get the food from there, right? Who puts it in the shops? Who puts it into the big supermarkets? Who allows for these things to go on our shelves? Who is, putting the quality into this? Who's questioning, where our food is actually coming from? They're talking about, there's no GMOs in the chicken, or there's no GMOs in the meat. Well, they may not be, but the food they're feeding those animals, what they're feeding into animals, what are they giving them? What grains are they giving them? Where is your food coming from? How is it getting onto your plate? Who has a control of every aspect of that? When was the last time you controlled your own food? When was the last time you grew your own food? When was, there's things that you don't question, right? We just go to the shop and get some food and put it in our belly. Now, we've got a centralized government. It's controlled. You think that government is the top of the food chain? It's middle management in this system, and we need to be aware of it to be able to know how we can treat it and how we can live a better life of being having freedom and having our own liberty back to ourselves. We've got centralized babysitting. We've got TV, Hollywood, sports stars. We've got they're constantly trying to control us from these people wanting to know what's happening with Kardashian, what's happening with, what's that guy in the car crash the other day, the golfer guy, Tiger Woods, what's happening? Like, these are just all brand sponsors. If you think about all these people, all these centrally controlled systems, they're all scripted, right? When you go onto the TV and you see the media, they're not thinking of things to talk about at the time. They're reading it off a script. You go to a school, what are they doing? They're reading it from a script. You see where the food is, where the government is. Look at the politicians, they're reading it from a script. You watch your sports stars, your actors, they're all actors that we're sitting here with in the world, and we're being controlled by these people. Don't be controlled by the system. We've also got a centralised pharmaceutical industry, which is all, I'll leave it for you guys to talk about amongst yourselves in your own community and groups and whatnot. But so if we look at the financial system, in the last 1,000 years, there have been over 10,000 fiat currencies, and they have all died via a hyperinflation. Just get that right. Like the first fiat currency was in China in 1024 AD. That's nearly 1,000 years ago. This has been played throughout centuries, throughout millennium, right? But it's getting a lot worse now. Now we've got all of the world's currencies tied together. And let's look at how the financial system has been robbed in our time, in our recent history, and look at what options there are. So in 1913, the US dollar was taken over from the Federal Reserve, and it was a private entity. A lot of you guys and girls may know that. If you don't, then there's a lot of research into how the currency works. If you guys don't just sit here and think this is it, go and do a lot of research into what happened, how the money works, how the system works, and don't go to any of the big corporate controlled media outlets to try and find that, because there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we don't actually see. In 1933, the dollar went bankrupt. And we had the Gold Confiscation Act of 1933, and back in 1971, that is when the current monetary system that we use went completely off any sort of freedom and real money. It went to the complete fiat currency that we have today. President Nixon removed the Bretton Woods system and enacted the petrodollar. And basically made the US dollar the reserve currency of the world. A lot of people look at the US dollar as the gold standard, and you think about it just in saying that the gold standard, right? Because they took the gold away. There's nothing that's backing these currencies. Basically what they did is they made the US dollar the base currency for the world, so all dollars have to trade in petrol to get around that. And every time someone has tried to change that throughout the last sort of 40, 50 years, we've seen Saddam try and trade oil and gold, or in euro, we've seen Gaddafi try and trade oil and gold. And these guys were killed. They were, shot, and they were called terrorists and whatnot because they're trying to break away from that system. So when we look at the TV that's promoting these people as good or bad people, we need to question some of the underlying facts as to why the media is saying this. Who owns the media? Who is controlling that media? Who is saying these things? So some of the things I may say may be controversial, but go and do some research into them, and you'll go, fuck, like maybe Birchett was right or something. Basically, since 1971, we have seen a recession every sort of 7 to 10 years, and this is controlled by the levers of that banking system, what we've been installed, and it is dying. We are seeing the system that we've got dying at the moment. We've seen the interest rates throughout each one of those cycles that could be 7 to 10 years. Interest rates go lower and lower. They go to lower highs and lower lows each time we see the market go forward. If we look here just in our own country, where the RBA has manipulated interest rates throughout the whole system, we haven't seen an interest rate increase for over a decade. We have seen our interest rate go down to 0.01%. Well, if you look at the real band of where it should be, and I've showed charts of this previously in webinars and Facebook Lives and different sort of presentations that I've done, our real cash rate should be somewhere between -2 to -3%, and currently we're sitting at 0%. So we've got a dying currency, we've got a dying financial system, and they're trying to prop it up, manipulate it, and control it in any way, shape, or form that they can. So it's the only way to get out of this is to keep printing money and eventually end up like all of the other 10,000 fiat currencies that we have seen and enter into a hyperinflation and our currency to collapse. So if we look at how money is controlled, right, we are born into the system where we've got this centrally controlled education. We're born to, be told that money is good. The education system pumps us full of, thoughts, beliefs, agendas, and how to be a part of that system and how to fit in. We've got centrally controlled money, which is dying. We're seeing the media nowadays try and control the masses' psychology around, here we are in 2021 and everyone's walking around with a mask on and, being told that they need to take a vaccine from the companies that benefit from this sort of stuff. We've got people not wanting to touch money because they're fearful. They're walking around the shopping centres in plastic bags with bloody water cooler bottles on their heads. There's face masks. And what sort of world do we live in? And that's all from the central controlled programming. It's nothing but programming. We've got the media that's controlled. We've got the food. Who's ever thought about the food getting crappier and crappier? The quality of it makes you sicker and sicker when you eat it, right? I don't want to go to fast food restaurants nowadays. I used to love eating that stuff, but now when I go there, I get sick from eating it because, there's so many more chemicals that are being put in. And when you go off eating these things, you go to a natural, wholesome, good food sort of diet, and you start eating this crap again, it has a reaction because your body's rejecting it because it's got toxins in it. So if we look at our government, we've got government enacting, these laws and these things that people wouldn't normally want because they're being controlled. They're being controlled from the media. They're being controlled from their education. They're being controlled from their money. And we're at a point where people are just being babysat at home. You've got Netflix, you've got Amazon, whatever the TV channels are that they've got as those direct views. Everyone goes, I've seen this really good documentary on there. It's telling us the truth about the world. Is it really truth, or is it just one of their psyops to be able to control the thoughts and the beliefs and the mindset, and to stop the questioning from people asking greater questions from what they're seeing on their media? We're going in an era where our currency is going to die. I talked about 5 years ago a thing called a global financial depression, which is a GFD. It never came out as a GFD, but strangely enough, we got a thing called the corona, and we had a scamdemic that came out, and everyone's now going, oh, well, we've got to print more money. We've got to, protect ourselves from the inevitable crash. We've got a crash that's coming, and we've got to print more money. We've got to help these people because we don't want people getting sick and don't want them dying. So no one's even questioning this whole beast of a system. And we're at a point now where the only way to stop the whole Western society and the world that we've got today falling off a cliff is to change our currency. But if we tell everyone it was a lie, then everybody's going to distrust us. So we have to try and do it safe, which takes us on to a cashless society. They've used their centralized media propaganda outlet to brainwash and control and sort of manipulate everybody to take the eye off the fact that our currency is dying. It is now entering into its 50th year of existence. In 1971, the 15th of August 1971 is when the dollar was created in its current format. Yes, it was called the dollar beforehand, but it is not the dollar that you had beforehand. Every country around the world had a currency which was backed by gold and silver. Now we have a currency that is backed by nothing, which makes it a fiat Ponzi debt bubble system. We're entering into the 50th year of our currency, and it is dying. It has been on palliative care for the last 10 years with dialysis, trying to keep it afloat. All these stimulus checks, all of these incentives, all of these things are mounting up to a point where they cannot have any effect. So where does it take us? Everyone's scared of, the world now. Everyone's scared of being too close to someone, hugging someone, touching a door handle. The photos we've seen of people with shopping bags on them and, plastic water bottles on their head and stuff like that. What a crazy world we live in. And that takes us to the new normal. People don't expect to use cash anymore. People expect to use a card. And if we were to see negative interest rates, which I believe should be between -2% and -3%, which is my forecasting. However, for some reason, they're remaining artificially high at 0.1%. If they were to go negative interest rates, people would be taking their money out of the bank, which would cause a bank run, and then it would cause the collapse of the financial system. So everything is being taped together. Imagine having a big accident and your leg's all mangled, you need to go to a hospital, but it's okay. We will just tape our leg back together using bandages, the bones are smashed and everything, and we will just continue to walk on and pretend that everything is normal. That is the world that we are living in 2021. So will Bitcoin become the currency of the future? Will it not be the currency of the future? We've got, avatars being these centrally controlled people that have their own agendas and that are put onto the media, and perpetrators being some sort of hero out there promoting the fact that Bitcoin and Dogecoin and all these other types of cryptocurrencies are going to be the future and all this sort of stuff. I questioned when I saw Elon Musk go out there and talk about, Bitcoin's great and he's investing into it and all that sort of stuff. I did actually question as to why he didn't invest into silver, because if he was to invest into silver and everyone else was to invest into silver, that would push the price of all of his cars up through the roof into a point where they'd be unaffordable. Every vehicle needs to have elements of silver. It would need maybe a few ounces to a couple of kilos. I don't know what they'd put in the car. So if the price of that went up astronomically, then that would cause the cost of his goods to go up, and he wouldn't be able to afford to make profit on it, which they don't make profit, but that's a different story. So we're seeing, sound money that's been taken away, a fake money that's been put in. Now we're going to a point where you're just trusting digits on a ledger, and we're now seeing cryptocurrencies go mainstream. I personally think that Bitcoin and all of the ecosystem has a great future. I think it has great potential. I've been invested in the Bitcoin when it was about $500, and I certainly haven't sold, and I've bought lots of different other alternative cryptocurrencies. And I see that there's a good upside and a good potential for people to be able to trade outside of this system. So what this has enabled is for, people to be able to, get into businesses. So for example, if we were to look at someone trying to start up a new business, they'd have to go to a venture fund capital company and beg them to give them some money and all this sort of stuff. You could use cryptocurrency as a mean to run your business from. You could use it as a venture fund, so you could raise capital via something like an ICO. So instead of taking your idea to some Wall Street banker and asking them to give you some money and sell your soul to them, you could launch it out to a network and get a community to back you and support your goal and dream and vision to be able to do so. So you've got different sorts of protocols that you can run, and it might be technical for some of you people that don't have that are listening that don't have cryptocurrency or any experience, but there is a massive world out there, and I think it's the internet back in 1994 before anyone knew what its capabilities were to use. But if it is used correctly, I think it would have decentralisation in media, in governance, in financial systems, in property transactions, with utilities, with identity, with corporate governance, with data. Unfortunately, it appears that the system, the centrally controlled system, is trying to hijack, the potential of cryptocurrencies, and being able to pretend that they're like cryptocurrencies, but are launching their own one. So it wouldn't surprise me that not too far in the distant future that we will see some sort of Aussie dollar coin or some Fed coin from the US, or some sort of government-backed, certified, issued, centrally controlled, not Bitcoin type of system where people will buy into unknowingly that they're accepting the mark of the beast. So I think if you could use crypto for good, it gives an opportunity for new commerce to emerge, to have freedom of your assets, and the freedom to be able to unplug yourself from the matrix and the whole system that we're in. We're seeing levels of censorship today in social media. The President of the United States of America was deplatformed from his social media because they didn't like him. There's a war on people's psychology and on their sort of intelligence at the moment. It's a psyop that's happening, and things are being manipulated that always have been manipulated, but it is becoming worse and worse in the world that we live in. If you could use decentralized platforms, there's many out there for social media. These tokens do hold a value because people are using the network, and for as long as people need the network, they will have value and the value will grow. But it just depends whether people do wake up their consciousness to be able to, regain a level of personal liberty and freedom to hop onto those platforms, or they keep enslaved or get more enslaved than ever beforehand. So just like a gun, it can be used to protect you, or it could be used against you to kill you. Cryptocurrency has that ability. But nevertheless, we are heading into a world where, you don't have access to your cash. I do large transactions every day. I've got large businesses. I've got, sometimes I need to transfer $500,000 in a day, or $250,000 or whatnot that goes through. Sometimes I need to go get cash from the bank. And let me tell you, when I go to the bank nowadays and ask for my money, right? I say, hey, can I go get 10 grand? Oh, sorry, what do you want the $10,000 for? I want my 10 grand. It's my money, right? You think it's your money, but it's not your money. You were controlled via the system. You ask for more money, they will, look at you like you're a criminal, look like you're, doing something silly. I remember going to the bank recently and I pulled out I think it was 10, 15 grand. They asked me what it's for. And I'm like, who cares what it's for? Like, whatever it's for is whatever I want it to be. I can't even get my own money now. And I said, I just wanted to pay a tradie. And the bank's like, are you under any duress? And they gave me this conversation like as if I was a criminal. I was like, that I was being held hostage. I'm like, no, like if it was 1995, you wouldn't be able to, you'd only have cash. You'd be taking cash in, you'd be getting cash out. But the banking system is dying. We are heading into a cashless society. This centrally controlled beast that we've got, the days are numbered and people are starting to see that. And we could either be trapped in a very centrally controlled communist, totalitarian, fascist state moving forward, or you could be freer than ever beforehand. And if more people start using things like Bitcoin or Litecoin or Ethereum and trading them as being a currency and not storing them, there is potential that people could outgo the system and have a total separate economy that they're working in. However, it appears that people aren't going down that road and they're being more caught up with the similar, centrally controlled Muppets that we've got out there, the avatars that are there, egging people on and whatnot. So, will we end up in a cashless society? I have not one doubt in my mind that we will end up in a cashless society. Is 2021 going to be the year? I think we're on the eve of it. If we look at the level of bank closures that are going out there, every time I walk into my local shopping centre, I'm seeing banks that are closing down and they're never to return. When Corona came through, I saw that there was local banks in my shopping centre here next to the B.Invested headquarters. They closed down. I was like, these guys are never going to return. And next minute, they closed down. Oh, we're doing a renovation, another bank said. Well, next minute, they're no longer there. Where are all these banks going? They don't need the banks. They need people to be able to use technology. They need them to use the applications, and then they don't need the bank at all. There was a new bank that moved. So there was a big business bank near where I am, and they moved into a shopping centre. And the shopping centre bank looked very nice, right? It looks very nice. But I said, where's all the windows? Everyone's standing on the floor. And I was talking to the manager of the bank, and she said, well, we don't have the cash like we used to. They keep the cash out the back in a safe so no one can come in and rob the bank because they don't have the cash. And I was like, why is it so nice in here? It looks like a cafe, it looks like a restaurant. And she's like, well, this bank's set up for the oldies. So when they come in, we can teach them how to use the internet and how to use the computer so they can get access to their money. But it's not their money, because if they want access to it, they can't get their fucking money, right? Let's think about it. So for me, what's the take out of this? Be aware, we're in a system. This is a war in our intelligence. This is a war. We've been born into the matrix. We've been born into this enslavement and bondage. And, there is ways out, having access to your own food supply, having access to growing your own fruit, vegetable, having your own produce, having your own animals. People say to me, Nathan, it sounds a bit harsh if you have lambs that you want to go and kill and slaughter and eat. And it's like, well, I want to be able to control it. If someone's going to deliver it to me in a wrapped in a bit of plastic or deep fried or cooked, at least I know what it's eaten, and it's not eating all of the, the bad GMO-based sort of foods that they're trying to give me and, pump us all full of. Having control of your own money, having control of your own assets, being outside of the banking system, having access to some cryptocurrency, having access to some precious metals, be it gold or silver. Does it mean that you go and sell your house and go and buy silver and gold? I think that would be stupid. Not that I give financial advice on these things. Do I think you should go and sell your house and buy Bitcoin? No, I think that's too risky. But having a strategy, having a plan, going, okay, I'm going to put $50 towards some silver. I'm going to put $50 towards some Bitcoin. I'm going to, whatever the case may be. Except cryptocurrencies in your business. It's better to use decentralized cryptocurrency than using government-backed, central bank-issued, mark of the beast, digital currency, cryptocurrency, which is dog shit. So, yeah, we're heading into a world, whether we like it or not. You go to any of the large stores, they don't accept cash. They make you look like a criminal if you've got cash. They make you feel bad. I remember going to the local Bunnings and I gave them a $50 note and no one had touched a $50 note before. And it's like, oh, please don't bring that out. You're going to kill me with it. And it's a very, very weird world that we're living in when you cannot even use cash. So we are heading into a cashless society. It is a centrally controlled system. Understand what you're seeing on the media, what you're seeing on the news, what you're seeing on your TV. Question everything, because it is all staged. They all read from a script. They're all actors, and we're being told these stories. So go seek the truth. Go seek answers. And there is a lot of opportunity out there. And I don't mean it and say it in a bad way to frighten or scare people. It's obvious that we live in a world today which is centrally controlled. You can't speak out of line. I think that when we see government-backed cashless sort of digital currency, it's going to be based on a social system credit score where the system can lock you off if they don't want you. How many times with these new digital identities can they lock you out? Have you lost your driver's license because you haven't paid a fine based on your property, right? I remember there was a fine that I got recently, maybe like 2 years ago, for a pool fence at a property. I didn't know anything about it. Never got the pool. Never got the fine for the pool fence not being certified or something. And I got a fine. I never got that. And then next minute I realised my driver's license had been discontinued. They can lock you out of the system as easy as that you're connected to it. So, have that access to it. Understand that we're living in a very, very communist world. Even if we feel like we're free, we're not. Walk into a shop without doing a scan in a sign, in an identity check, biometric cameras pointing at us where they can track and trace and value you. If you go to China, there is a social credit system there. They've been trying it for many years. It is based on, if you jaywalk across the road, by the time you get off the road and onto the other side of the road, you look at your bank account via an app on your phone, you have lost money out of your account. They've already fined you and taken the money out of your account before you can do anything about it. So you do not have control of your own life. You do not have personal liberty and freedom. Make sure that in this time, whilst most people are going to get enslaved into that system, that you are taking all the right precautions to be able to take protection for yourself, for your family, and be able to live life on your terms. So we're going to have a little birthday celebration, which will start on Monday, the 8th of March, and run for 12 days. This is only running via business days, so it'll be the first 5 days in the first week, the 5 days of the second week, and 2 days of the third week. Keep an eye out on all of our social media channels, whether it be the B.Invested Facebook page, Instagram page, YouTube channel. We'll be running some free events and free beers that we'll be giving out to the community, just as a bit of a thank you for supporting us for the last 12 years. So on that note, you can listen to the No BS with Birchie podcast every Tuesday. Head on over to beinvested.com.au if you're interested in getting started or need some guidance with where you're at with your current position in your property portfolio. We're now on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts, so go check it out. We'll catch up soon. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, guys. Bye for now.